Here we go. Well, good evening and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960 AM. I come to you every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM, or you can stream me online at saga960am.ca. During COVID-19, but frankly, all the time, one of the issues that has come up is opioid dependence and people that are trying to get over their dependence on drugs. And I came across a fascinating company, and it's called Dispension Industries. It's in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, Halifax, Nova Scotia. And we're joined by Corey Yantha, who is the president and co-founder of Dispension Industries. Corey, how are you? Welcome to our show.
Doing good. Thanks for having me today.
Our pleasure. So tell me, what is it that you are providing? You're providing a kiosk for opioid dependent people?
Correct. Yeah, we are developing secure automated kiosks to support the distribution of regulated products. And we've been working with Dr. Mark Tyndall and the MySafe Society to roll out the MySafe project, which is a secure automated kiosk that provides safe access to prescription opioids to drug-addicted people who are suffering from the adverse effects of a contaminated drug supply.
And so, obviously the opioid crisis is terrible. Are you helping to solve it, or are you helping people get off of opioids, or you're just helping them get opioids that are not contaminated?
Yeah, I think solve is a difficult term. We want to be part of the solution, and we're deploying our kiosk to provide people with a safe supply. This is a term that has become fairly popular over the last several months as part of a harm reduction initiative to provide people with access to safe medication that's prescribed by a physician. So instead of somebody completing the crime that's associated with accessing illicit drugs, people are provided with safe access to a prescribed medication once they're evaluated and eligible for a program. So the MySafe project is part of that safe supply initiative, where people are provided with access to oral hydromorphone in order for them to get their daily fix, and it really prevents them from going to the streets and being part of the illicit market. The other thing too we have to consider is people who are using contaminated drugs are overdosing, which also puts a stress on first responders and taxpayers. So this Safe Supply initiative is a scalable way to provide low barrier access to oral hydromorphone to save lives and stop people from overdosing.
So I think that, the statistic in Toronto, I'm not sure what it is in Halifax or Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, but the statistic in Toronto was there were actually more people that passed away from opioid overdoses in the last couple of months than did with COVID-19. So obviously a significant problem. But I come back. So are you part of a rehabilitation program that sort of takes people down in their usage, or no, all you're doing is providing them clean product?
Yeah, this is not an addictions program. This is really about providing people with safe access. The doctors that are associated with this program at some point could provide people with access to less over time. But right now, this is just a substitution for the contaminated street drugs that people are doing on a regular basis. And in order for people to get away from the contaminated market, you need to provide them with what they're using on a regular basis. So this program is really about harm reduction.
Okay, and so what have you got? You've got a kiosk that is like an ATM machine or a vending machine that provides the oral hydromorphine to people, and what they need a keypad or a prescription, or how do they access it?
It actually uses the internal vein pattern in your palm to allow access through advanced biometrics. Once a person is deemed eligible for the program, they'll be registered within the database, and they can access the machine by simply scanning their palm. So it's extremely low barrier, especially for people who suffer with homelessness and mental health issues, that all they need is their palm to access this machine. I'll talk a bit about the eligibility process. There's a lot of people who are using drugs in these communities that are already known to physicians and support workers. So there's quite a few candidates to be part of this program. To be eligible, they must test for either fentanyl in their urine, or they must have a history of overdose. And a lot of people do have history of overdose and are testing for fentanyl in their urine every day. So these people are eligible for the program. They would be enrolled. It's a very strict program, so you can only access a certain amount of medication at a time. The machine prevents people from going again and again. It locks them out for a certain period of time. So once the person is eligible, their biometric is created, and then they can simply scan their palm and access their medication in 15 seconds.
Fascinating. We're chatting today with Corey Yantha, who is the head of an organization called Dispension Industries out of Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, that's providing oral hydromorphine, so opioids, to opioid dependent patients through a vending machine, effectively. What a fascinating, it's incredible what some people do to create businesses. So we're going to take a break for messages and come back more with Corey in just a minute. Stay with us. Well, welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio, Wasaga 960. We're chatting tonight with Corey Yantha. He's the president and co-founder of Dispension Industries in Halifax, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. And we're talking about opioid-dependent people who need to continue getting access to their drugs, even though they're illicit drugs. Otherwise, they'll have a problem. And what Corey has developed is a dispensing unit. Let's talk about the dispensing unit for a couple of minutes. So what is it? How big is it? Where do you put it? How much does it cost? Who pays for it, etc.?
Yeah. How big is it? It's about 800 pounds. It's six feet, and it's securely bolted in place at all locations. We've developed these automated kiosks to be more secure and really purpose for distributing regulated products, which are much higher risk than typical candy bars. So there's a number of additional hardware features, such as the biometrics. There's CCTV. There's a bulletproof
What's
screen.
CCTV?
That's closed caption television. So that's a security camera, essentially, that's recording the transactions. And then there's a bulletproof screen, a tamper-resistant screen is what we call it. And there's also metallic plates behind the face of the machine to prevent anybody from penetrating the unit. So this is a very secure device, and we've built it that way because of the high-risk products that it's distributing.
And where would you be putting them?
They're located in a few different places. They're located in pharmacies. They'll be located in safe consumption sites. And in one circumstance, it's located in an old hotel that was purchased by the government of British Columbia and is housing homeless people during COVID. So we see this machine being secure enough to be located in any condition. And in this case, all of the locations have supplementary security.
And how many of these machines have you got in the marketplace so far?
There's currently 5 machines in the market.
And who are the buyer of the machine? The local provincial health authority?
Yeah, the buyer of the machine, it's actually this program specifically, it's part of a harm reduction initiative that we're working to roll out with a number of community organizations. We've been communicating closely with Health Canada about this being a scalable way to reduce overdose deaths. It's a way that you can provide access to a safe supply in all communities that need it. As you probably know, the overdose crisis is not just existing in the downtown east side. It's in Toronto, it's in Hamilton, it's in London, it's in Ottawa, it's in Halifax. So the major cities and the rural communities could have access to a safe supply, which would prevent overdose deaths. So we're working with some governing agencies to roll out this program, but this has largely been funded and developed by Dispension Industries. We've been working with Dr. Mark Tyndall to provide him with the technology he needs to save lives. And that's really what it comes down to. So, without any operational funding, we've been able to roll out these machines and scale a critical harm reduction solution.
So I guess you're of the opinion, and maybe this is proven, that overdose incidents are caused by additives, bad drugs, unclean sources of material, rather than just the opioids themselves. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, somebody who's using opioids on a daily basis is not going to overdose from prescription opioids, and that's really what we've learned. And I'm not a medical professional, but we work with a lot of them, and this is a very rational, cost-effective way to reduce overdose deaths. We know that in a lot of communities, people are waking up in the morning and they're committing crime. They're wondering how they're going to get the money to buy the drugs that might kill them. And isn't that crazy that we're sitting there watching people inject unknown chemicals into their bodies when we have an alternative that reduces crime? It reduces the cycle of the hustle is really what people refer to their day, and it gives people an opportunity to reconnect with society. So after the pilot, the success of the pilot, which was launched in December 2019 with 20 participants, we distributed 4,000 packets of safe drugs to people in the community who are enrolled in the program. Not one person had an overdose. We had 100% retention rate. And, the biggest benefit that came out of it is that 4 people found employment. So there's testimonials now that, people were able to reconnect with their grandchildren, and they don't have to wake up every morning and commit crime all day. So it's a very real, program that is connecting with people and providing them with the independence and autonomy to get their life back together.
So, I don't want to be overly moral here for a second, but you're effectively saying harm reduction by way of getting people off of the unclean substances they buy in the street, and effectively giving it to them for free rather than necessarily charging them the way that a street seller would charge them, is far better, because I guess it's achievable, than by putting people into rehab and trying to get them off the drug completely.
It's much cheaper. The biggest cost is the effect on society, whether it's the criminality or the impact on first responders and hospital beds. We talk about COVID, but if somebody overdoses, and they're out for a while, they could take up an ICU bed for 7 days. So the reduction in the impact on public services and the taxpayer is worth the harm reduction approach. And we're seeing, massive savings. Don't quote me on these numbers, but, approximately, $170,000 is what an opioid addict costs the government per year. And so every person that we can get safe supply to would, in a sense, save the government, hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost productivity or strain on public resources, crime in the community. We have a lot of support from, the Vancouver Police Department, from the Business Improvement Association. We've got the Assembly of First Nations. We've got a lot of support letters from community organizations that say, providing people with safe access reduces crime. And so I think a big benefit to this program is that we can provide safe access to more Canadians and in more communities.
But you're effectively allowing people to get high day after day for free.
And it's not my decision, but people get high day after day, but they commit crime to get the money to do that. And they're injecting, drugs of unknown potency and purity into their body, and then they're overdosing. And then the ambulance comes. So in BC in July, as you probably saw, the numbers were again staggering. 2,700 overdose calls in BC in July. And that's not
2,700?
2,700 in 1 month. And that's only reported to the ambulance. That's not saying all of the overdoses that were reversed in the streets by peers with naloxone, right? So 2,700 overdoses, that's 2,700 times the ambulance had to go and revive somebody with Narcan. So, we're looking at this from a completely paradigm shifting way where in order to reduce all of the effects of the overdose crisis, whether it's overdose deaths or as we went through the crime and the the stress on taxpayer resources, you give them 32-cent pills that will prevent them from using illicit substances.
But when you think about all society's political pushback against safe injection sites and things like that, do you think the public is ready to finance a 32-cent a pill addiction habit that people might have forever?
Well, again, it's a much cheaper alternative than even safe injection sites, and we're proponents for harm reduction, safe injection sites, safe consumption sites. They are services that are certainly needed in all communities. But people use safe injection sites and safe consumption sites because they're using contaminated substances, and they're acquiring those using illegal means, sex work and theft, vandalism, robbery, these types of things to get the money to buy the drugs that then have to be used in these safe consumption sites in case somebody overdoses. So, this infrastructure that's required to reverse overdoses, we've become experts at reversing overdoses instead of preventing them in the first place. And so we're trying to come at this, and we're working with, expert epidemiologists who have been working in marginalized communities for 30 and 40 years. And it shows that safe supply is saving lives and reducing the impact on society.
But shouldn't we really be interested in reducing addiction?
Yeah, but we've been trying to do that for decades. The war on drugs, and just put people in a room and let them squirm for months to get clean. Like, it doesn't work, right? And that's why we're in this situation, because nothing that people have been doing in the past is working effectively. We wouldn't be seeing record numbers every month, especially during COVID, as the drug supply has deteriorated further. The way that we've approached things up to this point hasn't been effective.
So rehab doesn't work. Getting people on.
Certainly it works for a group of people, and probably a large group of people. But, the real problem is people that don't connect with services and aren't adherent to programs or methadone. And again, I'm not a medical professional here, but it's really a common sense approach. We're talking about reducing harm. We're talking about providing access to something that's safe. If the insulin was killing people, you'd be racing to take that off the shelves and do something about it. And even you referenced, the numbers of deaths during COVID. Overdose deaths are way higher than anybody dying from COVID. And there was, billions of dollars spent because they look at addiction and the overdose crisis as something you inflict on yourself rather than something that you catch from another person. So there's just a whole paradigm shift that's needed in order for us to, essentially put an end to the overdose crisis. And that's by providing safe access to medical grade opioids.
Okay, so I can understand your practical approach, and I think it frankly makes a lot of sense. And I've been challenging because I want to challenge you to see how strongly you believe. But effectively in the end, what you're going to do is you're going to have a whole bunch of people that are just high, nonstop. Are we going to put up with that forever?
Well, I think there's a lot of people that are high nonstop, and there's even more people who aren't. So whether it's alcohol or coffee, cigarettes, cannabis, people are getting high. Cocaine, heroin, ecstasy. There's a lot of drugs out there that people have been doing for many decades. So why are we allowing people to to ingest contaminated drugs when we know people do them. And I'm not sitting here talking about whether it's right or wrong. I think the approach, the public health and safety approach to the overdose crisis is to provide safe access to prescription grade opioids. And by using our technology, you're able to do that in the most cost effective, scalable way to communities that need it. And there's no other cost effective, scalable way to do that. You can't operationalize a safe supply program as fast as you can with MySafe project.
Where do you get your, it's oral?
Oral hydromorphone.
Oral hydromorphine.
Yeah.
Where do you get it?
From a participating pharmacist. So there's a number of pharmacies that are partnered with the sites, and the pharmacies fill prescriptions, and the prescriptions are loaded into the machine. So once the prescription is dispensed by the pharmacist, it's a real prescription. It's dispensed under the framework of the College of Pharmacists. But once it's dispensed, it's securely stored in our machine until a participant needs to come and get the machine, get their medication rather.
And it comes in a daily dispensed amount, or a week or a month, or what?
Yeah, currently due to COVID, we're doing daily dispense. Prior to COVID, people were coming up to 4 times a day to get their medication because we're dealing with a group of people who may it would be like giving a gambler $1 million and telling him to hang on to it for a couple hours. It might be very difficult for some people, and depending on their behaviors. So some people needed to be on a regimen of every 2 hours, they could come back to the machine and they could get their medication. Other people could come daily, and we've seen some people graduate to weekly dispense. But the machine allows you to completely tailor people's patterns to their prescription. So a person can come once a day, they can access their medication, and they can go and use that in their own conditions.
We're chatting tonight with Corey Yantha. He is the president and head of an organization called Dispension Industries that is supplying ATM-like, vending machine-like facilities that provide drugs for people that are addicted to opioids. Fascinating conversation. We're going to take a break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour in Saga 960. Interesting conversation, and I've been challenging Corey Yantha. He's president and co-founder of Dispension Industries in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, because he's creating the equivalent of safe injection sites, sort of, I guess, kiosks that provide prescription-grade drugs, oral hydromorphine, to opioid addicted individuals so that they don't, number one, commit crime, number two, go buy it illicitly on the streets, and number three, potentially OD because what they buy is unclean and laced with something worse. And he's all about harm reduction, not trying to get them off their meds, not trying to put them in rehab. That's obviously someone else's responsibility. What he's focused on is reducing opioid deaths. And given the amount of opioid deaths, which actually right now are greater than coronavirus deaths, it's obviously an epidemic that we have to do something about, deal with. Corey, is this your only line of business, or have you got other lines of business?
Yeah, our kiosks were specifically designed for regulated products generally. So we have a few different areas of focus. We have business operating in the cannabis space. We're developing dispensing equipment to distribute cannabis in all corners of the country, and supporting the distribution challenges of cannabis, sale and medical access in other countries. The big problem that we have here in Canada is how can we provide legal access to everyone? And we talk about the black market and how to battle it. And so we're talking about using these kiosks as a rural access strategy, where we can provide legal cannabis access through the government agencies and the major private retailers, but we provide them with a distribution tool that they can use to provide low cost legal access in all corners of the market. So, for example, if a retailer has locations selling other products, why not deploy one of these kiosks in the corner of the store and provide legal cannabis access to the small community? There's a lot of opportunity to gain revenue from the black market that's currently operating across Canada. We're also focused on the alcohol beverage side.
Can I interrupt just for a second?
Sure.
You talked about contaminated street opioids a lot in our first segment. You now are talking about getting rid of the black market in cannabis. Is there an issue in regards to cannabis on the street being laced with anything?
Yeah, there is, and there's stories about it. That's not as big of a concern as capturing that revenue being lost. I think there's a lot of communities in the country that would purchase legal cannabis but don't have access to it. We're out here in Nova Scotia. We have the Nova Scotia Liquor Commission that's operating here, and there's 104 locations across the province. We're one of the most well-watered provinces in the country, but there isn't so much access to cannabis. And although that is improving, and they're going from 12, I believe, to many more. But we did
dispensaries.
Yeah, they're liquor stores, but they also have a cannabis store within. It's a different model out here. But in terms of rural communities, you can't expect somebody to drive 45 minutes to go buy legal cannabis and then back. It introduces a lot of risks, right? Potentially people could consume cannabis and then drive. But ultimately, the black market is operating unabated in a lot of these communities. So to provide a distribution tool, we're a technology company. We're not a drug distributor or a cannabis seller. We are a technology company that provides distribution technology that will support the challenges of distributing these products into the future. As you know, the way that we purchase regulated products hasn't changed very much over the last since I've been born, but I'm sure many decades before, that you walk up to the counter, you present your identification, a person decides whether or not they can allow you to purchase the product. In many cases, people use fake IDs, and there's a lot of benefits to using technology to effectively age gate consumers. So we're looking at being pioneers in unattended regulated product distribution by using effective age gating solutions and advanced biometrics and security to provide solutions for unattended sale of whether it's cannabis or alcohol, or even providing prescription drug access in rural communities. So we're using this technology in very innovative ways. We don't support the abuse of these products, but we know that people consume them, and we want to make sure that distributors can provide them in a more secure, safe way.
What's age gating, and how do you do it?
So age gating is a fancy term for IDing someone. Age gating is a term that was that came alive during these cannabis websites, where you'd go on the website, and if you could click a mouse, you could tell the computer how old you were, and it would let you into the website. And that's not very effective. It's a measure in place, and it's one of the only ones that they can use, but we're taking it much farther, and we're able to identify the age of a person in an unattended way by using advanced authentication technology, such as if you were crossing the border, you could use this same technology that verifies a document's authenticity. And make sure that the person standing in front of that kiosk is the person on the document. So there's advanced technology that we're using to make sure that the person in front of the kiosk is who they are, whether it's through the palm or whether it's through this document authentication technology. So we're looking at making sure that.
So are we all going to have palm prints taken?
It's a personal choice, but it definitely provides access, verified convenience for users. It's effective with a patient database, as we demonstrated in the MySafe project. You can scan your palm, and within a millisecond, you have access to a network of products, whether it's for harm reduction or whether it's for retail sale. So we think that this is the future of in-person retail.
Let's go on a segue just for a second. I've always found it fascinating. Every single palm is different.
Yeah, this machine identifies people using thousands of unique points in the palm. Every single person in the world has a different palm, even if you're twins. And it's actually not even the surface of the palm. Again, it's the internal vein pattern within your hand. So this technology uses infrared light. It passes through the skin, and you extract the vein pattern in your palm, which, contrary to what people may think, does not work if you get your hand cut off. So this method of identifying someone is the most secure biometric in the world, and it's completely foolproof. So we don't have to worry about somebody lifting fingerprints or capturing the face. It's all contained within your hand. It's your own contactless identification.
Unbelievable. Kind of cool. Okay, and so you're going to tell me about alcohol as well.
Yeah, and this really accelerated. COVID really accelerated Dispension's plans and has opened up a lot of new opportunities. Not that we pivoted at all, but we had been developing technology, contactless technology, low interaction, low face-to-face contact technology that would distribute these products. And when COVID came about in March here in Nova Scotia, where we are, the need for our technology became much greater, and not just for distributing a safe supply of opioids or reducing face-to-face contact with pharmacists and frontline healthcare workers, but for the stadium of the future. So we had started talking with a major stadium operator. Manages many professional sports stadiums globally, and they're looking at how they can reduce congestion and how they can reduce face-to-face contact and how they can increase the number of point-of-sale systems without rebuilding their whole facility. So we're talking with them about walls of units where you're providing a whole new point of sale system in their facility that's contactless. So we've been talking about, deploying these units for the next season, which unlikely will happen until maybe September of 2021 or later. So we're looking at, how we can make sure that these stadiums can operate in a post-COVID world and how they can service people purchasing beverages in a lower contact, less congested way. And then we're also looking at some lottery and gaming opportunities, how to effectively age gate consumers and provide people with access to scratch and win and instant win tickets, but also a gaming interface for the pro lines and the Lotto 649s, and being able to pick your numbers and scan your tickets and print your tickets. And so we're really creating this this distribution unit for regulated products and age-gated items. And we're looking at some major global opportunities to deploy these kiosks and to be a global leader in the space.
Fantastic. That said, you've produced 5 so far?
We're actually producing 20. The 5 that we have in the market are for a specific project, the MySafe project. But we are producing a number of other kiosks, and we're doing some R&D for some of these applications that we've been talking about. So we're still a startup company. We were incorporated in 2017, and we've been working very closely with our manufacturing partner, Signify Solutions, who's actually located in Mississauga. And they've been a fantastic partner. They're a global leader in the automated retail space. If you go to an airport and you see a Best Buy kiosk, it's theirs. They have, I think the market advantage. They're Canadian. They have some really great clients, and we're excited to be their regulated product arm.
Fantastic. And how'd you get into this?
It was a conversation amongst friends. We were talking about, the cannabis legalization the future, I guess, of cannabis legalization and how we could maybe become a part of that industry. And it just went to vending machines, and then, how are we going to distribute products in a more secure way? And then I started looking at biometric systems and, talking about how we can position this to support the distribution challenges of government agencies and harm reduction and promoting moderation and limiting consumption. So we really became, part of this innovative way of thinking about distributing regulated products, and that's kind of where it came from. So we're, part of our ethos is harm reduction, no matter what product we're distributing. But we've found some really interesting opportunities in many different verticals.
And you're still private?
Yes, we are.
Plans to go public?
Not for a while if we do.
Well, it sounds like an exciting business, no question. We're chatting tonight about dispensing of products, whether they be alcohol or cannabis or oral hydromorphine for people that are addicted to opioids. We're chatting with Corey Yaneth, who is the president and co-founder of Dispension Industries. We're going to take a break and come back with some concluding comments in just a minute. Stay with us. Well, interesting conversation tonight on the Brian Crombie Radio Hour with Corey Yaneth, who is the president and co-founder of Dispension Industries. We're talking about his vending machines that take biometrics and do age gating, a word that I haven't heard about before, by reading your palm and also the veins inside of your hand, which is really kind of interesting, and dispense effectively scheduled products and or other products that are either he's trying to harm reduction in the opioid space for people that are addicted to, dependent on opioids, and he's giving them oral hydromorphine. And he's
not giving it to them.
Well, it's going to them for free, correct?
It's prescribed by physicians, but yeah, it's part of an effective, scalable harm reduction strategy that is undoubtedly saving lives.
So you're not giving it to them for free, but they're actually getting it for free.
They're getting it for free, and it's a lot cheaper than them committing crimes and purchasing it on the streets.
Gotcha, understood. As well as cannabis, legalized cannabis, and also potentially some alcohol distribution. So it sounds really quite interesting. And Corey, you were telling me that you're going to be building a big R&D facility?
Yeah, we're looking at opening a R&D facility, research and development facility here in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Our partner in Signify Solutions is excited about expanding the capacity of the automated kiosk operations into Halifax with us. So we will have operations in Mississauga and in Halifax focused on really the regulated product side, focused on R&D of hardware and security upgrades, building kind of the AMG to their Mercedes down here. And we're looking forward to partnering with a lot of the post-secondary institutions here. We've got some great university, lots of talent, Dalhousie, St. Mary's, and Nova Scotia Community College. So we're opening this facility in September, early September. We're getting in there, and we're very excited to develop an industry technology cluster around advancing the automated kiosk space. We know that every single country in the whole world distributes regulated products, and we see a lot of opportunities to be a global leader in securely distributing regulated products in every country. Halifax is a great city. There's lots of innovation happening here. There's a great environment, government environment that is welcoming to innovation, and we're looking at attracting investment and attracting companies from outside the province to join us at our technology cluster, whether they're from the United States or in Europe, in Ontario. We're having a good time. We're very excited about where things are going, and we've been working very hard to get to where we are.
Corey, it sounds like a fascinating business that you've got yourself into, and that I think you've actually got a real social good in in harm reduction. You've talked about harm reduction and its benefits several times in our chat in regards to number one, people not committing crime. Number two, people not taking substances that they bought on the street that may be laced with something. And then obviously number three, not having an overdose, and therefore their personal impact, as well as I guess number four, their impact on society's healthcare costs, ambulances, ICU units, etc. But let me ask you a question. You also mentioned that you believe in moderation. What are you doing for moderation?
Our technology allows for, fully customizable limits. We call them consumption limits, and it allows a retailer, and it's not our decision how much somebody gets. We just provide the technology and the capability to limit people in their consumption. So on the moderation side, a lot of these products have been consumed in a gluttonous way for many decades, whether it's alcohol, cigarettes, prescription drugs, even cannabis. So we're providing the tools for distributors, whether they're government agencies or facilities, to limit the amount of products that can be consumed in a period of time. And I think it's pretty reasonable for people to enjoy themselves. We all have good times, but providing the tools for a stadium to limit people to 4 tall cans of beer in an hour, I think, is a pretty effective way to reduce, alcohol abuse and drunkenness.
4 tall cans in an hour, that's a lot.
Well, there you go. So by providing these tools to limit people to, certain amounts of these products, whether, you're limiting people to access these opioid medications every day or every so many hours, you're reducing the chance for abuse, and you're promoting moderation in the consumption. So again, we're not out there telling people how much they can have or how much they can't have. That's up to the medical professionals of the facilities. But our technology is fully customizable and allows you to moderate consumption and limit consumption.
So let me ask you a question. So methadone is a drug that people use to get off of a far harsher drug. Is that not correct?
It's a drug that people also abuse, and there's a huge cost to the methadone programs that are currently being implemented in Canada. So we're also looking at providing a solution for methadone distribution that is more cost effective, that witnesses the dose and also provides people with access to an alternative. So there's a lot of opportunities within the harm reduction space, specifically in rural and remote communities and dense urban centers that are dealing with people that have drug dependencies, whether they're on methadone programs. We're also positioning our technology to distribute things like Hep C medication and PrEP in communities that have other issues, whether it's high HIV transmission rates, adherence to Hep C medication. So this technology is extremely versatile, and we're looking at really positioning it for a number of different public health and safety applications.
I think that's fantastic. I guess I'd love it if you could also work on the moderation as much as the harm reduction, and try to get people off of their drug dependencies. And I use methadone as an example because I think while it is being abused by some, it is a way for others of getting off of their dependency. And so I don't know about oral hydromorphine or anything else, but if we found the solution to get people, to stream people, to get people off of their opioid addiction, their opioid dependence, clearly that would be better.
And first, you have to reduce their dependency on illicit drugs. Once they have a stable supply of whatever they're using, they can start to get their life back together, which could often include reducing the amount of substances that they use during that period. So we have seen success stories in the program where 2 people actually, one of them moved out of the downtown east side to get away from it because they were getting off the street and the hustle, and then the other person went into a rehab program. So you can't save people if they're dead, and if people do want to get better, they need first safe access to the medication that they need every day. And once that happens, there's a lot of opportunity for connection, for outreach. Using the touchscreen interface that you can see behind me, you can direct information to these people, whether it's programs, outreach programs. You can direct information about, the services that are available to them to help them recover. So this is an effective public health and safety tool that we're positioning in a number of different ways to support Canadians and people in other countries with these challenges.
Corey Yantha, president and co-founder of Dispension Industries. Thanks for joining us tonight. Really quite a fascinating conversation. Well, that's the Brian Crombie Show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Good night, everybody.